Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living Lives. Today, in my diffuser, I have wintergreen, and I chose wintergreen because wintergreen is the oil of surrender. And lots of things have changed in the last hour as to who is going to be my guest today. So I'm just surrendering and going with the flow. So my guest was supposed to be Erica, but something came up with her family. So she's going to be coming on later in the month, I believe. And today we have Darion Keahey. I work with him on a regular basis. He helps me out with some assistant stuff, but he is also the co-founder of the Digital Era. So welcome, Darion, and let's find out more about him. Hey there, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. How about you, Wayne?
Good. So how did you get to where you are to now? Give us a little bit of background.
Yeah.
What the Digital Era is.
Yeah, so it's been quite the journey. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, born in Jersey, but grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and I just always had a passion for people. So I first started this journey as a virtual assistant, just working remote and traveling the world, kind of just always intrigued me. So I went to college, and then somewhere around there, I got an internship with a really great company in my home state in Alabama. And when I got the internship, I killed the internship, and they asked me, would you like to come on full time as account director? I was like, absolutely. So I kind of went on my journey for about 1.5 years as account director for this marketing company. And somewhere along the lines, I met Taylor, who's also been on the podcast with you before in the past. Met her, we connected, and we decided to do this trip to Bali. And in Bali, me and Taylor realized we had a lot in common. And our number one goal was we wanted to see changes in people, in particular entrepreneurs, people who are self-made hustlers, motivators, and stuff along those lines. And that's kind of where the Digital Era came about. Actually, it didn't come about, and the root started in Bali. Then COVID happened, and we both went back home. And we would have conversations till 2 a.m. in the morning, just talking business. And I had my own venture going on. I was working remote for a few companies, making pretty good money at the time, and I absolutely loved it. And Taylor was like, "Hey, we have the platform. We know a lot of entrepreneurs, and we have the resources. Let's do this." And she already had a formula built that she had started in a previous past, a Facebook group called the Digital Era. So we're actually thinking of names. And I was like, Taylor, how about we just take what you already have and build on it, and we'll just take your name and everything, and we'll recreate the logo and redo the brand style guide and everything. And from there, it just kind of took off, and it's been a journey the past 1.5 years now. So that we started it, and it's been a lot of fun.
So what kind of work do you do with the Digital Era?
Yeah, so right now we're doing mainly virtual events. So what that looks like is just online events So one thing I started personally inside the Digital Era is Speak Out Tuesdays. So most Tuesdays, we need to be more consistent on it now. But most Tuesdays, we'll have a guest come on and speak out and tell their story about what they've been through or what they're going through or what they even accomplished. It just kind of gives the person the platform to feel like, hey, I'm heard, and gives everybody who's attending to hear stories. So it's a lot of storytelling. But the overall realm of the Digital Era is for like-minded entrepreneurs to connect and to take adventures and trips. So long-term, what we plan on doing is taking more trips and adventures all around the world, whether it's to Bali. So a Bali trip would be like getting out the rut, because Bali is a really spiritual place, a really fun place, and a place to get out the rut. Our Mexico trip is the hustle trip. We like to go to Mexico, and it's about hustle, it's about business, and it's a week-long just business trip to get entrepreneurs in that business mindset. So it just kind of all depends what people are looking for. And then once a year, we want to do a trip that's just spontaneous, whether it's like, for example, we want to go see the Northern Lights. So we would call it Chasing the Northern Lights. So that's just not just for entrepreneurs, but just people who want to travel and do these unique, adventurous, thrill stuff. One thing I compare it to is Seeking Discomfort. Is another company out there called Seeking Discomfort that is really unique. They have a YouTube channel and everything. So we're kind of similar to them, but our motto is live what you love.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good motto. And I love the fact that, as you know, I'm all about adventures and connecting. So that kind of fits both of the whole bit of what I do. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Now we just got to get you to get some essential oils involved with all this stuff.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So where's your favorite spots that you've traveled to so far?
Oof. My least favorite spot is probably China.
Okay.
I know that's probably you said favorite. Just because of the food. But my favorite spot that I've traveled to, it has to go St. Lucia. My dad was raised
Okay.
in St. Lucia. I've gone. I know I've gone a million times, but there's no place like home. Like my family, my culture. So it has to be St. Lucia. Outside
Okay.
of that, I would put Portugal or Bali as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like Portugal, and I really like Bali.
What part of Portugal were you in?
Madeira.
Okay. And how long were you in Bali?
Ooh, we were in Bali for a month and a half. So, and then would have been longer, but COVID happened.
Ooh.
We were planning on going back out in May, but COVID picked up, so we couldn't go back out in May. So that was unfortunate.
Did you have trouble getting back home?
I personally did, not everybody else. I did. I had to pay a little bit extra because I originally flew to China before. Me and my friend who went to Bali, me and her, we went to China first. And
Okay.
we spent a little time in China before going to Bali, and that was in January, so it was a little precaution getting back in and flying back. We booked our flight to go back through China, and then it got canceled last minute because
okay.
So we had to stop in Taipei. Yeah, so we were actually going to spend a few days in Australia, but then couldn't get that to work out. So we were like, all right, let's go to Taipei. We spent like a day or two there, and then flew back.
There's a whole bunch of places I haven't been. I haven't been to China, and I haven't been to Taipei, and I haven't been to Bali, and I haven't been to Australia. And a lot of them are on my list of places to visit. So
really beautiful places.
I'm looking forward to going to some of those places and checking off some more places on my list. I don't know if I ever told you I had a goal of visiting all 50 states and 50 different countries and 7 continents and 7 territories. So I've got the 50 states done.
Okay.
I've got 4 continents done and 37 or 38 countries and a couple of territories. What? So most of the territories I have left are little islands in the South Pacific.
Okay.
Guam and Midway. And I've done the ones here on the East Coast. Okay. Puerto Rico and DC are both territories. So, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, I think, as well. But it's, now it's, and the continents I have left are South America, Australia, and Antarctica. So I'm foreseeing a trip in my future that either starts in South America and goes to Antarctica or starts in Australia and goes to Antarctica, because those are the 2 places you go from typically.
Yeah.
So,
I also want to reiterate that China wasn't necessarily my least favorite place. It was just a really quite the experience with the food. And we were in Southeast China, so it was a lot different from maybe like a Beijing and
okay,
the rest of China. But it was quite different, and the food was not my favorite. So, or the alcohol, or the alcohol. Alcohol was not my favorite either.
Well, at least you tried it. So now you know you don't like it versus just saying, and before you try it. So that's always I
would love to visit Beijing now.
Friends of mine were there for the Olympics that were there last. So they said it was beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what do you see yourself doing in the future?
Yeah, I feel like I don't like to get too far ahead of myself, because every time I say this is my plan for the future, it always go completely different. I mean, I never, honestly, growing up, I never really thought I would be in this position that I am now, working remote. I always thought, I would go play college baseball, become like a baseball coach, or work as like a pilot or something along the lines, or even go to med school maybe. But I hate bloods, so I guess this is way better. But as of right now, what I hope my future looks like is just something creative, something in the creative industry.
Okay.
Something that inspires other people. My big belief is, and I think you know this, Wayne, but it's all about other people. How can I help somebody else? Every day I wake up, I want to have the mindset of like, how can I touch one more life? I don't have to be the person who changed the world, but I would love to inspire the mind that does change the world. And that's kind of my goal. I would love to build a school. That's my ultimate, like when I'm 60 or 80, that's the one dream I would love to do is
Why wait so long? Where do you want to build a school?
So I don't know where exactly yet, but I kind of I want one for every continent, like well, except for Antarctica. So because it's kind of hard to build a school in Antarctica. So
yeah,
but
it kind of needs people to have schools.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And it's already hard enough to get to Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and so that's the plan, is to build the foundation, and that's kind of what we're doing with the digital era. Taylor has the same goal as well, I believe, long term, that we kind of talked about, is starting a digital era as like an entrepreneurship type thing, and then turn the focus over with the profit into the younger generation, because we want to build up the generation under us and see that generation thrive and give them the tools that we feel like we didn't have, whether that's mental health. I feel like one thing I see a lot of entrepreneurs in general struggle with is they're so busy, whether it's with their family or not, or whatever they're doing, that sometimes they forget that they have to be, it's okay not to be okay, and because a lot of entrepreneurs want to have this mindset of, I got to be strong, like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a go-getter, which is great. But at the same time, we have to be real with ourselves. Like, I struggle with this, or I struggle with mental health. Like, we need a support system.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's, a lot about what I do is working with people who, on self-care. And it's really important. And I know I've said this before on this, the podcast, that we, as caregivers, or as we can't take care of other people unless we take care of ourselves first. And we should be giving from our saucer, not our cup.
Exactly.
So, it's like, an endowment. You don't eat you don't use the principle of endowment. You only use the interest. So we need to use what's flowing out of our cup and gets caught in the saucer for other people, because our cup needs to be full so that we can keep serving other people.
Exactly.
So it's really important to take care of yourself. And, that's one of the things, I know you've been through part of it, but the mentor program that I run is designed to help men develop some self-care techniques. So the next one of those is starting again in January. So if anybody's interested, I can put the link out there. So it's definitely a program to help people, men in particular, connect back to themselves.
Exactly.
And begin the greatest adventure of their lives, because why not be on an adventure? I was listening to a different podcast the other day, and it was talking about being a professional nomad, a digital nomad. And it sounded really interesting. I mean, it's hard for me because I'm tied to, a caregiver for my mom who isn't going to be traveling. But I was definitely jealous of the whole lifestyle, I think. So I definitely look into that later, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. One thing personally, what I struggle with as a digital nomad and kind of living that lifestyle is, when I first got into it, I found myself very lonely, though, at the same time, because you're traveling so much. And me coming from being just so close to my family, my mother and my father, being so close to both, kind of that's where I found myself, like a lot of moments where I was struggling really bad with mental health. Right now, where I live right now. I live in Oregon right now. My mom lives in Alabama and my dad lives in New York. So completely different sides of the country. One's in the South and one's up on the East Coast. So even today, living just in Oregon, I found myself struggling with not having that easy access to my family as much as I would like. But that's why it's so important to build small communities around you, make good friends that you trust and that you love and that you have good quality time with. And that's why I'm glad I moved to Oregon, and I'm glad I found my people.
Yeah. I have become very connected with an organization called Easton Mountain, and I've had some guests on from there as well. And that's, my tribe. I found them there. So it's just a couple hours away from me, and I can go there. Luckily, I'm able to go there fairly regularly, and I have connections with people all over the world from there, but mostly from New England. And even through the last year and a half during this whole COVID crisis, a group of us play online Farkle game almost every Saturday night. And it was just a small community of 6 to 8 people who met on a regular basis to play a dice game. And that was the nice thing about it was something that we could do. We each had our own dice, or somebody would roll for somebody else, or somebody else used computer dice, so we could all play in our own way without and still honor the restrictions of being separate and over Zoom. So it's definitely sometimes a challenge to make those communities, but when you get them, they're something to definitely cherish.
That is true. Yeah, you just got to find the right people to connect with, and and that's Taylor. That's how we connected, and that's how she became part of my overseas family. Everybody I lived with in Bali, for the most part, I still keep in contact with, maybe except for the exception of maybe 2 people that kind of we lived in a 12-bed. It was 12 of us, I believe, and out of 12 of us, I would say not necessarily on a regular basis, but at least once every couple of months, I talk to at least 10 of them once every couple of months, and maybe 3 of them on almost a regular basis. So, and that's what I love, because not only that, but building that community that we built and what we're trying to build is, I could go to Sweden right now today and have a free place to stay. I could go to Saudi Arabia right now today and get my friend owns a coffee shop, and I could stay with him. And that's the unique thing about traveling and building a community, and then going to your separate ways that might hurt and suck. It was sad watching everybody leave, but now one of my friends, he just came and visited me in Oregon, and it was such a blast just to see him here in Oregon, coming to visit.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you, but in probably before you were born, in 1987-88, I traveled with a musical group called Up With People, and there was 127 of us in our cast, between the cast and the crew, the staff and the students. And they were from 27 different countries and 17 different states. So 27 different states and 17 different countries, something like that. Lots of people, lots of places. So I used to travel, every couple of years I'd go to Europe for a couple of weeks and I'd stay with my friends, and 2 years ago we went to outside of Amsterdam for a reunion, and there was like 30 of us that came from all over the world. And we were probably from 4 or 5 different continents even. So it was a lot of fun, and we just picked up where we left off, and it was kind of cool.
I think that's really,
some of the people I've seen on a very regular basis, and most of them I've been in touch with. I've probably seen, I used to be our cast rep, so I probably was in contact with more people numbers wise, even though I might not have seen everybody as often, but I also tended to, if somebody was having a mini reunion, I'd jump in on it. So I saw probably more people in general than most of the others, but I did the same thing. I would travel. I did a whole Scandinavian tour, just hopping between my Scandinavian friends. And at one point, I think I had keys to 3 different apartments in 3 different countries on my keychain. So that when I went back, I could, or 3 different parts of 2 different countries in 3 different parts of countries. So I could get, back. And I left suitcase in one and just took the carry-on to go over to this country, and then back and changed and, over to that country. And it was really kind of cool.
It is really cool. And I think it's unique that so many people showed up to a reunion with living so all over the world.
Yeah, we had people from probably about, let's see, there was about 30 of us. So there were from Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Israel, a Japanese student from Israel, all of Scandinavia, and probably about 6 or 8, maybe 8 or 10 states. And I know I missed a couple European countries, and Portugal, and Alejo was from Costa Rica. So we had people from all over the place. It was a lot of fun.
Right. That's awesome.
So, it's definitely, I definitely hear you when it comes to building a tribe and keeping in touch. And these people they're people that I traveled with in 1987 to 88. So long time ago.
Yeah, that's just a few years before I was born.
Yeah. So, and we're still just like we traveled yesterday. We can pick up where we left off, and it was an intense year where we were together for a year. And we all had that shared experience, so we were very close. But we definitely pick up where we left off whenever we get together, and it's really. And I know there's people that if I needed something, I could say it, and they would come.
And that's what it's all about. It's all about building, like you said, what you're all about: connections and adventures and travel and living what you love. And that's why I love what I do, and I'm passionate about it. It motivates me to want to wake up every morning. I actually heard this cool story. It was like about finding your why. I can't really remember the exact circumstance of it, but he went into the doctor. Like he saw this Oprah show on a flight, and it was about going to the doctor and like getting your heart tested and how important it was. And he got tested or whatever, and he went to the doctor's office, and the doctor was like, "I have good news and I have bad news for you." And he was like, "Okay, what is it?" And the doctor was like, "Well, do you want to see your daughter? Do you want to walk your daughter down the aisle?" And he was like, "Of course." And he was like, "Do you want to see your son graduate?" He was like, "Of course." And the doctor basically told him, like, at this rate, you won't be able to do any of that. But the good news is, if we change some of your health habits right now, we can change all of that. And that became his why, because he wanted to see his daughter walk down the aisle. He wanted to see his son graduate. So him when he didn't want to go to the gym and he didn't want to get up, he had to remember, like, no, I want to see my daughter walk down the aisle. I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle. I want to see my son graduate. So this is my why to getting up. And that's kind of what I do for myself, is try to build my why of, hey, this is why I get up. This is what I love. This is awesome.
Yep. And it's being in the network marketing business and a lot of other things that I do. We're always talking about what's your why, what's the drive behind what you're doing, and we talk about when you're finding it, to ask why. And it's actually better to do it with two people. And have someone ask you why, and then when you give them their answer, they'll ask you, well, why that? And you really should go down like 7 layers until you get to the core of what's really behind driving you. And in that case, it's he wants to go to his daughter's wedding, or see his son graduate. So it really is important. It's the thing that gets you through those bad days. And they say never quit on a bad day. If you're going to quit on a good day. And of course, on a good day, you don't want to quit. So, but it's the deep why, like you said, that gets you out of bed in the morning. Exactly. and lets you, persevere in what you're doing, because there's a benefit behind it that's beyond you or beyond now. Exactly.
And then that's kind of what we're trying to do with the digital era, is trying to get to people why, and trying to storytell it and hear unique stories. We want to be empathetic. We want to have empathy towards everyone. We want to hear stories. I feel like we live in a world nowadays where we're so quick to judge others without knowing why they act the way they act. And I'm glad you kind of touched on that. And I find it very important. And I feel like the only way to help someone is by finding out who they are through storytelling or through having conversations and being vulnerable. I have this saying, if I go to the doctor or if I go to a surgeon and my heart is broken, but he does surgery on my ankle was healthy, he didn't fix anything, you know what I mean? Or same thing, if I go to a car mechanic, he can't fix the problem unless he knows does like the diagnostic first. He has to know what the problem is. So it's the same thing with people. When we want to love people, we want to help people, we have to figure out, just like a surgeon or just like a car mechanic, what is the root of the issue that person is dealing with. So then we know how can we help in that way. And
right.
And I think that's basically what the digital era, not written in this isn't in our brand style guide, but this is coming from the co-founder of what I want to be about and what we're striving to be about.
Good. That sounds very encouraging, and I'm glad there's somebody out there doing it for the next generation.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Well, I want to thank you for joining me today, especially at such short notice.
Of course.
It's been great chatting with you. And if you just hang out in the green room for a second, we can, let me wrap up the show and I'll be right back with you. Well, so next up, we have Bo Cohen. He'll be here next week with us. I think you're really going to enjoy meeting him. He has overcome some massive challenges, and he does it on a daily basis to dominate the day every day. And how we're going to talk about how you can do that too. And as always, I want to encourage you all to go out, make a connection, and live your best lives. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.